This is WFYI News Now. It's Wednesday, February 4th, and I'm Sarah Neal-Estes. Here are today's Central Indiana and statewide stories. Some state GOP leaders are criticizing the student walkouts held to protest federal immigration enforcement. Eric Weddle reports.
State education officials and some Republican lawmakers are responding. The Indiana Department of Education says it does not support or endorse any student walkout, as class time must be focused on learning. The department says districts should enforce discipline policies for student conduct and attendance. Republican Representative Jake Teshka called the walkouts highly orchestrated indoctrination led by adults. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith says it's unacceptable schools are letting students walk out to protest ICE. But students say they aren't worried about being disciplined. Speaking out for their immigrant classmates is more important. I'm Eric Weddle.
Indiana lawmakers overhauled an immigration bill this week to align with the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policies. Samantha Horton reports.
The amended version forces state and local law enforcement compliance with federal immigration officers, adds reporting requirements for immigrants receiving welfare benefits, creates penalties for employers that hire people without legal status, and gives the Attorney General more enforcement powers. Save Heritage Indiana co-founder Nathan Roberts says he's in favor of the bill, that he believes helps address illegal immigration in the state.
It will make Indiana the model for common sense immigration enforcement throughout the country.
But many who stood at the podium urged lawmakers to vote against it. Noblesville resident Kumba Kebe says the legislation goes against Indiana's Christian values.
How can we claim to be pro-life while supporting the inhumane treatment of immigrants in this country?
After more than 4 hours of testimony, the House Judiciary Committee passed the amended bill. I'm Samantha Horton at the State House.
State lawmakers consider a bill that would require patient consent for any invasive examination performed on someone who is unconscious. The bill requires doctors to let patients know about pelvic, prostate, and rectal examinations being done before they happen. Ben Thorpe reports.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has recently released guidance for hospitals around informed consent. Indiana's proposal largely brings the state in line with the federal guidance. Bill author Senator Michael Kreider says the measure is in response to a patient who is a survivor of sexual assault and underwent a procedure without her prior knowledge.
Essentially, what I'm trying to do is make sure that we don't end up in situations where a patient feels like they've received some level of examination that they did not consent to.
The bill includes some exceptions for cases of medical emergency. I'm Ben Thorpe at the State House.
The Coalition for Homelessness Intervention and Prevention held the annual census of people experiencing homelessness in Indianapolis. CHIP is a nonprofit that addresses homelessness, and the point-in-time count is a federally mandated census of people without stable housing. The data is used by local and federal agencies to guide where resources go to address housing needs. CHIP CEO Chelsea Herring-Cozy says information from the count can make a big difference.
The PIT doesn't necessarily tell us everything, but it shows us where we need to pay more attention and dig deeper and start asking more questions to understand what's going on here. And how do we then kind of think through or realign our resources to do something different?
And she says the city is seeing some negative trends in homelessness.
More people are being priced out of housing. Evictions are so easy to execute here. There's not a lot of tenant protections. Wages have been very stagnant.
Herring-Cozy says this year's count was made more difficult by severe weather, and volunteers conducted follow-ups at libraries, food pantries, and other community spaces to help complete it. Results of the count are expected later this year. And for our final story today, people from across the state competed last weekend in the annual Braille Challenge. Jeremy Rubin has more.
Indiana's Regional Braille Challenge is a multi-event competition for blind or visually impaired students. Events include spelling, reading comprehension, reading charts and graphs, proofreading, and speed and accuracy. Jasmine Nelson is a senior at the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired and has been competing for years. She says the best part is connecting with people in the blind community.
It's really important for people with disabilities to be able to have that aspect of a community, especially ones who may go to a public school or live in a rural area, and they may not have ever met somebody who is like them before.
Results from the competition will be announced later this week. The top performers will advance to the national competition in California. I'm Jeremy Rubin.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Zach Bundy with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Kendall Antron produced our music. And if you liked today's episode, remember to subscribe and share. And follow WFYI on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to get the latest updates from our newsroom anytime. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.